Hi, welcome to Marky Mark's Woodshop. I'm Amber.
Marky Mark, and this is the Woodshop.
And today we're going to talk about the
SuperMax 19-38 drum sander. Ta-da-ta-da! So we got this probably about a year or so ago, and we've been kicking the tires ever since. It's a good unit. It has two motors, one for the drum itself and another for the feed table. There is a gotcha hidden in the back here. There's a gotcha during setup. The setup instructions aren't much, although it's got a myriad of adjustments that it does explain rather well. I haven't had to do any adjustments on it. It came perfect from the factory. However, setup, there's two plugs, actually one plug, but one of the motors plugs into a hidden little spot back by the other motor on the side of the control panel. And I had to call up to find out about it. Evidently, that's 80% of their calls. So remember that if you get one. That, of course, was not in the manual.
However, the customer service was totally awesome.
Oh yeah, got to give him an A+ in customer service. The guy was just awesome. He was ready to send me anything I needed. But anyway.
And we're not sponsored by SuperMax or anything like this. This is just a regular Joe review.
Yeah. I had a Performax sander in Maryland. I got rid of it and upgraded to this. One less thing to carry. And the abrasive rolls you can get anywhere from 36 grit up to about 220. There's one of the rolls, and that wraps around the drum inside. There.
And you have changed the sandpaper since you've gotten it. What would you say? Was it easy to do compared to other ones?
This is exactly like the Performax and the Jet sanders. They're a pain in the butt. You got to take your time. They have to be tight, and it's just something you got to get the hang of. And you'll notice there's a little bit of wood ingrained in the sandpaper. I'll show you a little trick here shortly about how to clean the sandpaper and make it last longer. So that's about all there is for maintenance and care and feeding. I've actually switched the paper several times because you may need different grits for different jobs. However, I've worn out a couple papers. You can also buy longer rolls of paper from different people like Klingspor. Instead of buying these rolls, they're about $11 a piece.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but you can get longer rolls. They're like 150 feet. And they may be a little bit cheaper, but then you have to cut them, which isn't a big deal. Anyhow, we're going to give you a little demonstration. The unit came with a stand. I added wheels on the bottom so I can roll it around the shop. I had to buy in-feed and out-feed tables.
Where'd you get the wheels from?
Either Harbor Freight or Home Depot. I can't remember which.
It was Harbor Freight.
I was going to say probably Harbor Freight. That's usually where I get most of my wheels from.
The wheels that came with the unit were very expensive.
Yeah, they wanted like almost $100. Then feed and out feed tables are around $100. But unfortunately, you can't run down to Harbor Freight and buy those. You could use roller stands or something else, but I like the convenience of the in-feed and out-feed tables.
And he got the open bottom thing because they were out of the other one at the time.
Yeah, I'd wanted a closed cabinet because it's a dust catcher. Most of my stuff I had started with open cabinets, and now I'm slowly moving as I upgrade stuff to closed cabinets. It seems to store stuff better, and there's just less mess.
And he might modify that later so that it's closed cabinet too.
Actually, I hadn't thought about that, but I could do it. Just get some panels and screw in there. So it's easy to work. This adjusts your drum up and down, and it has a very fine adjustment. There's a little scale on the side, which I never use. 1/4 of a turn up here is 1/64 of an inch down there. So you can do very fine graduations. And also the speed for the infeed table varies from nothing to fast. The scale goes from 0 to 100. I don't know if that means anything with inches or feet per minute or anything like that.
So what's the importance of the speed being changed on the belt?
You may or may not want to sand things differently. For example, perhaps you can actually use this as a planer. So if I want to take a little bit of irregularity out of a board, but it's not quite enough to run through a joiner, I can put like a 36 grit paper in here and run it through very fast. So that'll take off some imperfections. Or conversely, if I want to do a final sanding on something and make it, as good as I can get, I'll put in a fine paper like a 220 grit and run it through slowly. So, there's just versatility. Normally for typical work, I think I've got like an 80 grit paper in there or so, because I usually do a final sanding after the machine anyway, hand sanding, so I'm not after perfection from the machine as far as a smooth surface. It's not going to give you that.
Well, one of the things I've noticed too using it is when you use it well, you'll get your initial sanding, which is great, but it also gives a very I don't know the word I'm looking for, matched pattern set of sanding.
Yeah.
Where if you're doing it in random, you don't get that. So.
That's true. It'll give you a nice even surface.
Symmetrical, that's what I was looking for.
Called a 19-38 for a reason. That's the capacity. It'll handle a 19-inch piece of wood. Or 1938 for a reason. That's the capacity in inches. It'll handle a 19-inch board. And since it's open at the end, I can do two sides. So now I can do a 38-inch board by going and doing both sides. If I had a wide 3-foot, say, tabletop surface, I could run the first half through, flip it around, and run the second half through.
Perfect. So what's the difference of this? Why is the speed important again?
Again, just different ways I might want to sand something. If I want to take a lot off quickly versus at one extreme doing a fine sanding slowly at the other extreme. And of course there's a lot of territory in the middle. Normally I'll run it through on the scale of 1 to 100 about 1/3 of the way speed. So it's not going terribly fast and it's not crawling.
One thing I've observed using it is if you're doing smaller pieces, which isn't exactly recommended, but if you do a smaller piece, if you see the gap in the table over there, right there, the little piece can slip through and fall down on the ground.
Well, it's supposed to go down to 1/8 of an inch, and that's a pretty thin piece of wood. And I believe on the other end of the scale it'll go up to about 4 inches high. So that covers a lot of territory. It's not like you're going to sand railroad ties.
So anything that you've not discovered that you've not liked about the SuperMax?
I can't say anything bad about this unit. it's a dream. I had a SuperMax before this, which was very nice. It was they were the king of the drum sanders at that point. Jet's bought them out since then. Jet would be the second choice behind the SuperMax brand. A lot of the others, such as Delta and Ryobi, are toys compared to this. And one of the bad aspects is their drum is stable. The bed raises and lowers, which, according to reviews, is not a good thing. The only other thing that would be nice, might be, but you got to get this in a bigger unit, is the theory that the open end isn't stable here, but it's extremely stable. Normally there's support here, like there is here on the bigger sanders, but to jump into something that's going to give you a 3-foot capacity is going to cost probably $5,000. This unit was $1,300. And don't look for a deal. You're going to pay $1,300 no matter where you go.
Or at least that's what it was back then.
It's still that price. And there's only a couple people to handle this. I bought this right from the factory and they shipped it free, which was nice because it was like almost 300 pounds. And the truck pulled up and even the driver was awesome. He helped me get it in the shop and all. It came in a couple of big boxes. The whole head unit is assembled as one unit, but that was the heaviest piece.
And we do have a assembling video.
It's all cast iron, which is a good thing. We like cast iron machinery. And the rest of it's stamped steel, the stand, some of the pieces that houses the feed and your other tables are all stamped steel. So that's not quite as heavy. So let's get to kicking the tires on it.
Okay, roll it on.
So I'd mentioned earlier about the stuff getting in the sandpaper here. Well, they make crepe sticks. That's great for cleaning sandpaper, not just for drum sanders, but belt sanders, any kind of sander you have. So just turn on your sander, run the crepe across it. And it will clean the paper. SuperMax comes with a 4-inch dust port, which is pretty standard, at least on this size of equipment. So I've got a board we can test through here and show you how this puppy works. So let's turn on the dust collector. Here we go. Have it. A little demonstration of the SuperMax 1938 drum sander. It does a nice job. So, make sure you leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, like, and we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.
And let us know if you have a SuperMax or what you think of it. Have an awesome day. Thanks for watching.